So my first question, James, is the following. Now, we are bombarded with advertising day and night, online, offline, on TV. How do you feel about being part of this bombardment?
I think that, have you ever been to Canberra?
No.
Have you ever been to Sao Paulo?
No.
So these are famous places. Both of them are constructed national capitals. And in constructing the national capital, both the Brazilian and the Australian government made purposeful decisions to forego outdoor advertising. And it's kind of an interesting experiment to go to them, because you discover that what you assume as part of like the natural cityscape is in fact a lot of it is advertising. And that a lot of it is crap, but a lot of it is pretty entertaining too. And I'm not going to claim that it enriches people's lives, but it certainly distracts them. And I don't think that good advertising is bad. I think that too much advertising is bad, but I don't think that good advertising is bad.
Well, now taking the discussion from good advertising, there's certainly, I don't know whether it's a good advertising or not, there's a trend of the advertising moving from the traditional media, which is newspapers and TV, and this trend has been ongoing for a while, and it's been moving online for some time. My question is, you worked at Intrawest, which is one of the largest resort operators in North America, and you grew revenues online from 2 million to 40 million, I believe.
Yeah.
So my question is this kind of growth possible today with a certain industry that would like to advertise online? I guess everybody, we have the impression everybody is online, but are they really utilizing it to the same size you've done?
I think it's interesting. I think all new technologies imitate existing technologies. And so the first type of sort of widely prevalent advertising we saw online was banner ads, which were really just sort of billboards in a digital context, or magazine ads in a digital context. And then we got sort of animated GIFs and some flash ads or something like that, but they're still kind of the same thing, right? And I think it's sort of instructive to look at in the 40s and 50s, when television was kind of becoming a mass media. All the first advertisements were actually live action, right? Because all television was live action, because it was just imitating what came before it. So I think that we haven't really seen great media types that are built just for online advertising yet emerge. I think we're starting to. I've seen some campaigns that are pretty cool. In fact, they're like a YouTube video, but the YouTube video has an embedded link, which is like choose your own adventure, which leads to another video, which leads to another video. And so you can actually build like paths as you go through it. And I think that advertising is also becoming more utility-based.
Let's say I have a corporation today, a restaurant, a hotel.
Yeah.
Do you think these businesses are doing enough, or is the market saturated in online advertising? Did it reach a maturity level that now we're moving beyond online to mobile?
No. If you look at like audience time, like time people spent online versus how much of an ad spend is online, the percent of an ad spend, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it's around 10-12% right now, whereas in terms of media exposure, online is 30-35% of people's time. So people spend way more time disproportionately than advertisers are trying to reach them online. So I think there's lots and lots of growth still to come.
And your take on the mobile advertising industry. Now, we have a clear leader in the online advertising market. I believe Google is the leader right now in ad spending.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Google will go airborne, or there will be another type of Google that will take over?
They'll certainly try to. They'll certainly try and leverage their core technology and competencies. And if you think about, like, in software they talk about the stack, which is really the value chain of an industry. Google's in search. And so around search, if you think about it, is like the browser, the operating system. And so it's trying to commodify those things, right? So whatever are especially adjacent to where its value proposition actually is what it tries to commodify. And so if you think about its value proposition in a mobile context, they've bought a company called AdMob, which is really kind of an extension of their advertising display network online. And so they're in a prominent position. I mean, there's risks about antitrust when they're too large in the position. There's risks about proprietary platforms, like the Apple platforms or the Windows platforms or anything like that. But I think that Google is positioned incredibly well to dominate mobile the same way it dominates online, and the same way that I think it's going to try to dominate every type of sort of networked advertising that's digital. So those bus signs that are now digital driving around, they're going to be connected to the web. They're going to be run by software. Well, whose software is going to run them to optimize the delivery of those ads and manage it and everything like that, right?
You mentioned that 80% of the ad industry is media, and 20% is creative. Now, let's say I'm an investor and I'm looking to invest in the ad industry. From your perspective as a CEO operating in this industry, where the money is?
So, I mean, it's a gross simplification, I think, to say that it's 80-20, but I think that was kind of the rule of thumb for 50 years of mass marketing, particularly television. And now you see all kinds of different platforms emerge, and essentially the advertising landscape fragmenting and becoming way more complex. And that complexity isn't going to go away. It's going to become more complex. If you look at any evolutionary system, they become more complex over time until they can't sort of support the weight of complexity, and then they simplify and things collapse. And so I think where the money is in advertising sort of emerging positions is in marketplaces that do reselling of ad inventory online, companies that make creative into a scalable process for buyers. So some companies are trying to do, essentially Google runs a ton of software around how they manage the ads that you see, right? Everything from like the search ads and what words are there and which ones and everything like that, to the display ads when you're on lots of other people's websites, and they're using Google as the back end, to now videos and so on. And they're building better and better tools so that anybody can build those ads and can build dynamic versions of those ads. So they're essentially uncoupling the ad as a static asset.
Does that mean that the money is with Google still?
I think that there's a lot of it, but Google's going to acquire a ton of companies in that process.
And do you see yourself as a potential company?
I don't know. I don't think it's a good cultural fit, to be honest with you. I think it might be, but it would be a stretch. I mean, they've tried to do something kind of like what we're doing for about 2 years now. They've got something called the Creative Marketplace, but essentially they're competing for lowest cost solution. So their buyers are looking for, like, what's the cheapest way that I can get a video done to place on YouTube or to place somewhere else? What's the cheapest way I can get a banner ad done? And Google has no interest, in fact, in the creative side of the business, because they want you to spend all your money on the media side of the business, which is what they run.
But you would consider Google as a direct competitor to you right now?
Well, they don't really do the creative, so no, I don't. I think that maybe they're an indirect competitor, but probably not. I mean, we're certainly not on their radar, I don't think so.
I see. Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be.
Yeah.